Have you ever known someone who looked like the perfect success story on paper? Great start, great mentors, great public image, but the moment they were left alone, everything just crumbled?
Oh, absolutely. It's that classic hollow shell phenomenon. You think the structure is solid, but it's actually being held up by the scaffolding. Once you take the scaffolding away, the building collapses.
That is exactly the vibe I'm getting from the story we are digging into today. We're looking at the life of Joash, the king of Judah. And honestly, it's one of the most frustrating character arcs in history.
It really is. It's a tragedy in two acts. In Act 1, you have this boy king hidden away for his safety, raised by the high priest Jehoiada. He comes to the throne at 7 years old, and for decades, he is the model leader.
Right, he's actually an innovator. I was reading about his temple restoration project. Before Joash, the funding for repairs was, let's call it, leaky. The priests were collecting money, but the repairs weren't happening.
Exactly. It was an administrative mess. So Joash steps in, and remember, this is ancient history, but he invents something incredibly modern, a designated collection box.
The chest with the hole bored in the lid.
Yes, it's basically the ancestor of every donation box or transparent accounting system we have today. He bypassed the middleman. The money went directly into the box, the scribes counted it, and they paid the workers directly: masons, carpenters, stonecutters.
And the text makes a point to say they didn't even need to audit the foreman because they dealt so faithfully. It sounds like a golden age, efficient, holy, honest.
It was. But here is the catch. The text says Joash did what was right all the days of Jehoiada the priest. That is the most ominous foreshadowing you can imagine.
Because Jehoiada was the scaffolding.
Precisely. Jehoiada lives to be 130 years old, an ancient anchor for the kingdom. But the moment he dies and is buried, the vacuum opens.
And this is where the story takes a dark turn. The princes of Judah come to Joash, they bow down, they flatter him, and suddenly the king just flips.
It's a complete moral collapse. He abandons the temple he spent decades repairing to serve idols. But it gets worse. When God sends prophets to warn him, Joash doesn't just ignore them.
No, this part actually shocked me. Zechariah, the son of Jehoiada, the man who essentially was a father to Joash, stands up to correct him. And what does Joash do?
He orders him to be stoned to death in the courtyard of the temple. He murders the son of his savior in the very place he spent his youth restoring. It's a level of ingratitude that is hard to wrap your head around.
It's visceral. Zechariah's dying words were, "May the Lord look on this and call you to account." And that accounting came fast, didn't it?
Brutally fast. The Syrian army invades, and the text notes a fascinating strategic detail. The Syrians had a small army. Judah had a very great host, but because they had abandoned their moral core, the smaller force decimated them. Joash is left wounded, bankrupt, and eventually assassinated in his own bed by his servants.
It's such a pathetic end. But I want to pivot for a second, because while this is happening in Judah, there's a different kind of drama happening in the northern kingdom with the prophet Elisha.
Right? The north has its own messy kings, Jehoahaz and another Joash. Confusing, I know, but the spotlight really falls on Elisha's deathbed.
This scene is so strange and cinematic. The king of Israel comes to visit the dying prophet and is weeping over him. And Elisha decides to give him one final test.
The test of the arrows. Elisha tells the king to open the window eastward and shoot an arrow. He calls it the Lord's arrow of victory.
Then he tells the king, "Strike the ground with the arrows." The king hits the ground 3 times and stops. And Elisha, on his deathbed, gets furious. Why?
Because it revealed the king's heart. He was doing the bare minimum. He lacked passion. Elisha tells him, if you had struck 5 or 6 times, you would have destroyed your enemy completely. Now, you'll only win 3 times.
That connects back to our first story, doesn't it? It's about half-heartedness.
Exactly. Joash of Judah was half-hearted. His righteousness was borrowed from his mentor. The king of Israel was half-hearted. He wanted victory but lacked the zeal to seize it fully.
It really makes you wonder about the difference between compliance and conviction. Striking the ground 3 times is compliant, but striking it until the prophet says, "Stop," is conviction.
That's the lesson. You can build temples. You can visit dying prophets. You can go through the motions. But if the fire isn't internal, if you're just performing for an audience or a mentor, you won't last.
And speaking of lasting power, we can't skip the bizarre post-credits scene with Elisha.
Oh, you mean the accidental resurrection?
Yes. A group is burying a man, they see raiders coming, so they panic and toss the body into Elisha's tomb. The dead man touches Elisha's bones and jumps back to life.
It's a wild ending, but think about the contrast. Joash of Judah turned into a murderer while he was still alive. Elisha was bringing people life even after he was dead.
That is a powerful image to leave on. One man's bones held more power than the other man's throne.
It forces us to ask ourselves, is our character our own, or are we just mirroring the people around us? Because eventually the mentor dies, the window opens, and you're the one holding the bow.
And the question is, how many times will you strike the ground? Thanks for listening, everyone.
See you next time. If you have been blessed by this, please like, subscribe, and share this joy with others. God bless.